Thanks for staying with us. So Tuesdays are Healthy Tuesdays, so we have to touch on how to be healthier, especially when it comes to kids. So today we'll be discussing tips for safeguarding our children during this summer break and the differences in millennial and Gen Z parenting with the columnist, speaker, childcare business expert, Caroline Popoola in the building. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. Very much, I saw you guys. Well, I didn't see you guys. You had me online.
Yes, yes. Oh, that was you. Yes. I kept saying the feel was familiar. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about you in the UK, right?
Yes,
I remember now. You're fantastic. Good to have you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here.
So summer is here. The kids are out and they're eating up all the food, you know, and their character is coming out.
Exactly.
With
all the sweets.
With all the sweets. So could you give us some tips, really, because especially in this season where the kids are home, and how best to help them to learn and actually be more, you know, to learn a bit more values this season.
I like the fact that you said values.
Yeah.
Because why do we have breaks? So they can take a break from those constant cramming of books
academics.
and, you know, so we take breaks because your brain does need to relax a bit.
Yes.
So you can do like more pleasurable stuff. So that's why we have breaks. And hence, when it comes to the holidays, what I normally recommend to parents and teachers that have extracurricular activities is more activities they can do that still they're learning,
right,
but unconsciously learning, you know, not intentional learning kind of. So they can go to like after school clubs and they learn to mix with friends. So they're learning team building, they're learning how to share, you know, things like that, which are things they would later on need in life,
real life,
you know, so, and their social skills, their communication skills, all of those things they have. So we would have things like board games. So they have tons and tons of board games, and they're competitive. You know, you could imagine something like when we had the chess games and things like that. So it's not educational per se, but it's relaxing, but there's lots of skills they learn from
screen
that.
time, because if they have to do board games, if I buy the board games, I would make sure maybe for these hours you are doing board before you then go to screen.
Yeah,
and
fantastic idea.
And
I love it.
I mean, statistics shows that not more than 2 hours of screen time in a week, where possible.
What?
Honestly, even with regards to when it comes to your educational stuff that you learn. So parents use this excuse that, but they're learning how to read or 1, 2, 3 and ABC online. It's too much screen time. What happens to when we were younger, that we have to go outside on the streets? And I know it's not safe, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you can still do that in moderation. I encourage my kids to go out. And yes, I'm sorry, but the UK is not safe. You know that. It's not particularly safe, especially if you have black boys on the streets. So it's not a Nigerian thing. It's not an African thing. It's a world problem. So it's not safe, but you still don't keep them in the house, and they're constantly on that. You know, so...
You know, I really miss my childhood. I had, if I remember, by this time
we
I'm
had
already
time for everything.
Calculating. I talked to the trees that that's fruit, you know. I climbed trees, I did it all.
Yeah.
But my kids, sadly, have to take some classes online. Yeah. And that's where the screen time starts to... So you're disciplined to keep 2 hours a week. I would really have loved to do that, but most of the trainings, even the Quran classes are online.
Yeah.
You know, and how do you then, what would you advise I give up? For someone like me who has to do some form of screen time no matter what, what can I say I can let go? I used to do skill for my daughter. So at 4, she started hair weaving for, you know, the long-term rainy season holidays. She does this, you know, she moved from that to weaving again and, you know, braiding. And now she did tailoring. You know, you have one skill or the other she could have done, but now we are forced to do it on screen because going out, meeting people, and the distance of traveling also. So what would you advise?
I love the rainy season holiday.
It's the rainy season.
Because my children are always saying summer. I say we don't have summer in Nigeria. We have rainy season.
Long-term holiday.
Long-term, exactly. Yeah. So what I would suggest is let's not forget what you gain when you're with other people. It's so important. It's just conversation. And we're getting to a world where we don't value people anymore. And it's more online. We can't do that. Now, making relationship is so difficult. People don't know how to make relationship. Whereas you have more online dating games and coming up, and you're talking to a screen. You're not even talking to a true person. What happens to that thing of like, let's go out for a meal, or let's go to the park and sit down and let's have a chat? Or not even have a chat, let's just look at nature.
Nigerians, we don't know how to look at nature.
You know, all of that, we need to go back into that. We can't say it. We don't want the one thing, technology, that is good for us, and we don't have a choice, we have to move with it, but at the same time, be the hindrance of what raises our children. That's not it. Because I constantly go back to the fact that if you look at us, we've not turned out too bad.
Yeah.
Don't forget what's turned us to this incredible people that we are. You can't ignore that. And in that sense, I always bring culture into it. Regardless of where you are, if you look at the Indians, the Asians, and the Chinese, all of them, their culture comes first. Their language comes first before any other language. You have the Arabs, they can speak English with all their loaded money. They will turn around and say to you, no English. If you either come to our level or there's no talking. So why are we not doing that? We should be proud of who we are. And it's only when they see us being proud and not constantly banging them in front of this thing called a TV or screen, that's when they start to take pride in the culture. So going back to your question in terms of safety and in the holidays, we have, obviously, there's so many things. First and foremost is parents. You need to know where your child is, what your child is doing. Even online, are they safe online? What are they watching online? And because as parents, we're so busy, we take a back seat, you don't even know what they're doing in this 45 minutes or 2 hours that you've given them. And they could be in all sorts. So as a parent, first and foremost, you must know where they are at all times. And if they're in trouble, you must have codes or ways in which you communicate. You know, because my area is more early years, under fives, and I'm so particular about children and safeguarding, and the fact that if someone does anything to you, how do you talk about it? How do you tell? How do you gain confidence in the way I speak to mom, the way I speak to dad, that dad is giving me or mom is giving me that permission that I can say anything to her regardless? Do we bring, and that comes with confidence. That comes with social skills. That comes with communication skills. Which are the things we're talking about you don't learn on screen. Because you're sitting there, the TV is talking at you.
Yeah, right.
You can't talk back.
You're not talking back.
Fantastic. Okay.
So I love the idea that I know you're particular about early children, but I also know that many people with teenagers are struggling. There's the, how do I manage this years? I can't take
the preteens.
Teens. I can't take your device because I don't want to alienate you. So a lot of parents are struggling with, I don't want my child to hate me, but I still want to be firm and disciplined. How do we strike the balance, especially during this long holiday that we have to deal with them without school?
See, that's a really good question, because everyone gets into, and I'll be lying to you. I have a 16-year-old, I tell you, he doesn't even know I exist, like genuinely. And it's not for lack of trying. But it's that thing where you come to a conversation. You get them down. My boy will stay in the loft and he would just be fine. Mariah, I'm home. Come down, let's have a conversation. And you try and do family time if you can. You know, think about quality, not quantity. That's very key. So going back to, there's no time not to fix it. You can fix it at any time. So no parent has got the manual.
Right.
At any time, any stage you find yourself, you get the information, all right. Let's do. The first thing I'll say is, let's have a conversation. We'll have a conversation. This is how I feel. So imagine I'm talking to you as my teen. Tokwe, this is how I feel. I feel you're spending too much time on screen. You might disagree with me, but that's what I feel. So for example, I monitored on Monday, you spend on Tuesday. You explain that. Because we're trying to have a conversation here. Let's reach an agreement. And that's the starting point. And let's reach an agreement. Yes, you're going to have the ones that are going to kick back. And then you go back to that place of like, okay, let's try another method. There's no one way fits all in any family. However, not trying is not an option.
Yeah. I mean, when my daughter talks to me, she talks to me as in like this old person. Mommy, you won't understand.
That's the latest now.
You. Hello? What don't I understand?
We watched the film. He said all of it is fake. All the stunts, and I went on Google and showed him. And they did the stunts themselves.
And true, I have an hyperactive son. He doesn't sit down in one place. When he's moving, in fact, anything on the road is kick. Is when you put him on that PlayStation, that is when you will get his attention. But aside that, What else? What are apart from board games? How do? Because I'm always thinking of how to engage him and make him, you know, active and all, because he's too hyperactive.
Even with that, it's a matter of having to call them and say, okay, what would you like us to do together? You know, the thing is, don't get me wrong. If it's not a process, a thing you've done before, there's gonna be a few kickbacks. But it's the consistency, the intentionality of like, I want to change, I want to do better, I want them to do better, or we want to do this together. You tell them, because children are not silly.
We are working.
They're very smart.
We're working.
And I get it. So the culture in Africa, we have nannies, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we have nannies that understand and do these things with the kids? And this is where I say, as parents, do you even communicate your values to your nannies? Because if you don't they just bring somebody. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you guys are intelligent, fine ladies, right? So compared to when I was younger, we just had a girl from the village would come and they just do things, you know. So that's changed, and you get late. Obviously, you tell them what the attributes you're looking for and so on. So if you had someone that is slightly smart, you know, not too local. They come in, okay, these are the things we would like you to do. It's almost, you're paying them for a service. You should have your expectations. So the way you have an expectation from a school, I would have an expectation from my nanny. So these are the things that are allowed in my home. These are the things that are not allowed. These are the things you do with my children. Even in the UK, where the children, we have our children go to nannies, go to nurseries and things like that. There was a time I had 3 children under 5, and it was a lot, and it was ridiculous. And I worked full time, so I had to get someone that's not so much a nanny, but she would take all 3 kids to curricular activities. So I said, I like them to swim, I like them to do this, and she then took them. I paid for her petrol, you know. So it's things like that.
Yeah.
So something is got to give. If you can't do it, because the culture is one that we don't have the time. Not even just the culture, like. Life now determines both parents have got to work, you know, because the cost of living is high. So even in that, you can have an expectation for whoever is the next person looking after the children, and you say to them, these are the things I want.
Okay, so what you're saying is that we shouldn't continue with schoolwork when they come back from school.
No, it's too much. It's too much. It's too
Trust
much.
me, that's a good question, because we have some husbands and you see that they finish mathematics and they must do mathematics.
They will come back and
I get you.
Honestly.
I have to ask you about this very quickly, because how do we get out this Gen Z generation to be more street smart? They just, many of them are very,
I know.
they're just very, you know, I'm like, come on, man. So how do we get them to be sharp? Well, I wish I could just, you know, stop my finger and just get you to be street smart.
So what worked for me, and I say to parents, and I use that as an example, so I have over 500 parents I would normally see on a weekly basis, not so like face-to-face, but that come within because I run a chain of childcare settings in London, and I'll see them over a period of time. And nothing best than experience, you talking from your experience. Whilst not that one would fit your home, you have to try different skills. But what worked for me was, with my boys, I literally, because of the thing with the boys and knife and gun crime in London, and I live in London. So I have videos of like, look, these are things that could happen. And do you know what? You can only do your best. You can't kill yourself. Because once you've given them the information, you've armed them with the right information, there's nothing else you can do as a parent. And that's where our prayers come in. And that's where that faith comes in. And you say, look, I hand them over to you. Simple thing like when they're going to uni, what can you do about it? What can you do? But we have a lot of them now with mental health issues, committing suicide. I had a case where, unfortunately, so sad, left the parents were in the UK, they had enough, they came back to Nigeria, left the child there. She left uni, went to book a hotel room and committed suicide, hanged herself. Again, it's such sad news that we have to go through that stuff. And as a parent, you think, what more could I have done? There's nothing you could have done. There's nothing. It's got nothing to do with you. But the main thing is not telling them is the choice you don't have.
Yeah.
So we had a video going around in the UK at one point saying how they recruit children into becoming drug moguls and things like that. So I showed those videos to my kids. You can tell me, oh, Mom, you don't get it. I would never do that. But
they're aware.
But they're aware of it. And it's the not showing them that that's where we haven't done our job.
Yeah,
you know, so there are lots, and so going back to the millennial and the Gen Zs, there are lots of information online now compared to when we were growing up. And so they have that at their fingertip. So it's a matter of like, you have groups, you have lots of groups, WhatsApp groups that are catering to parents, millennial parents, older parents, they've got younger kids, you know, all sorts.
Yeah.
So it's not getting those information, that would be at our own risk.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up now. But
Oh
thank
my
you
goodness.
so much. I mean, we ate into your time. We really love to just, because I have so many more questions for you. But we have to bring you back, hopefully, before you go back. You're not going back soon, right? You're still around.
Tomorrow.
Oh, yikes. All right, so thank you so much. We're speaking with childcare business expert Caroline Popoola. Thank you again for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's